Hey girls, today's video is going to be a little different to normal because I'd love to share with you my top 5 takeaways from an incredible talk I went to on the weekend with a group of clients where some of the world's leading women's health experts came together in Sydney to talk about how to thrive through menopause, perimenopause and beyond, and how we need to best look after ourselves to thrive during this period. So they are experts that a lot of you might already follow if you're interested in this area, which you probably are if you're in this group and watching this video. Experts included Dr Louise Newson, who is known as the Menopause Doctor. She's from the UK. Dr Mary Claire Haver, who is very well known now in the menopause space. She's the author of the book called The New Menopause. Dr Vonda Wright, who is an orthopedic surgeon, spoke a lot about muscles and bones and really was talking my language. And Dr Kelly Casperson, who is a urologist, talked a lot about hormones and sexual health when it comes to women going through menopause. So this was at the Opera House in Sydney. It was called So Hot Right Now. As far as I'm aware, it's the first event of its kind anywhere in the world. Certainly the first time these 4, I think, had come together as a group to speak about this event. So it was pretty amazing to be part of. I went with a group of clients, goddess clients. There was about 2,500 women in the audience. It was a sold out event. If ever there was a sign that women are just hungry and desperate for more information on this topic, then that was the only evidence you need. So I would love to know if you were there, let me know. I'd love to hear your takeaways from the event. It was also live streamed, I believe, and people from all around the world could pay to be part of that live stream as well. So if you saw it one way or another, whether live or live streamed, I would love to hear what your takeaways from the event were. So today I'm going to share my top 5 takeaways. The experts, as you can probably imagine, because they were experts from all different areas of women's health, covered lots of different aspects of women's health through perimenopause and menopause and beyond. Physical, mental, emotional, social, sexual. I am going to narrow my focus of my top 5 takeaways to the physical aspect that they spoke about, because obviously this is what this group is primarily about. This is my area of expertise. And also if I shared all my highlights from the whole thing in this video, it would take 2 hours. That wouldn't really be a highlights video. So I would love to just share with you my top 5, which are mostly about that physical aspect, how we can best prepare ourselves for the physical changes of perimenopause and menopause to be in the best kind of shape of our lives in this phase, which is for the rest of our lives. So I think what I really loved, and this was an overarching message through all of the different experts, and it was pretty much the one thing that all of my clients, we chatted about it afterwards. What was your biggest takeaway? What was the thing that resonated with you most? They all said this one thing. And that was the need for self-advocacy. So basically, as women, we really need to fight for our own needs. No one's coming to save us. I can't remember which of the experts said this. This is a message that I love, that no one's coming to save us. We can't wait and rely on someone else to come and be like, this is what you need to look after your health the best. We need to be the advocates for our own health. Yes, we need more funding. Yes, we need more research into this area of our lives, but we can't sit around and wait for that to happen. And the beautiful message that I love from all of this, which is something that I'm very big on, is that there is so much that we can do that is within our control, and we really need to focus on that. What can we do? Not all of this is happening and I've got no control over it and there needs to be more funding so we have more answers. All of that is true. But also there's lots that we can focus on, lots that we can control. That is very important. Dr. Vonda Wright, I think if I had to pick a favorite, I really loved her message. And this was obviously because this is something that I'm very passionate about, which is the physical aspect of what we can do to best prepare our bodies for menopause. So she's the orthopedic surgeon. And one of the things that she said, which really resonated with me, was you're not the victim of the passage of time. You're in charge of your own destiny. And I think if there was one message that I wish all women over 40 would heed, it is this, that we're not destined to go downhill fast when we hit menopause. No matter what the first half of your life looked like, if you didn't look after your health in the first half of your life, there's still an opportunity to change things, to turn things around in the second half. It doesn't matter what your mum's experience of menopause was, or your sister's, or your grandma's. The past doesn't dictate our future, and there are many things that are in our control that we can change in order to live the second half of our life in the best shape of our life. Another thing that she said, Dr. Wright, was that you have amazing agency over the trajectory of your health. And I think that this is a really important message for women in menopause and perimenopause, because sometimes we feel like our health is out of our control. It's like this runaway train and we've lost control, but we do have agency and control over a lot of aspects of it. I wanted to touch on one thing that is a very important topic, I think, which is that hormone therapy was obviously discussed at great length among a lot of the different experts. So you might know it as HRT. We used to call it HRT, hormone replacement therapy. Now, these days, it's known as menopause hormone therapy, MHT, because we're not trying to replace the hormones we lost. It's a hormone therapy, and the amounts are adjusted depending on the individual's needs. And I believe it was Dr. Haver, don't quote me on this, but I think it was her that said, we're not saying every woman should be on MHT, but every woman deserves the right to have a collaborative conversation with her healthcare provider about whether that is an appropriate option for her. Not to go to the doctor and be fobbed off, told they're too young or too old or gaslit about their symptoms, that every woman just deserves to be able to have that conversation. And this is what comes where we come back to that idea of self-advocacy, where if you're not getting that opportunity to have the conversation and you want to have it, then we need to look at finding a different doctor, really. And just one thing to note, I think, in terms of how hormone therapy has an impact on our body, like our weight changes, etc., the evidence suggests that hormone therapy is not going to directly impact our weight in and of itself, but if we have a think about it, obviously there's many other things that it does or can have a positive impact on. But when you think about it along these lines, if you were able to sleep better because you replaced your estrogen and progesterone, if you were not waking up 30 times a night from hot flushes or night sweats, don't you think you'd be able to have a bit more energy during the day to move better and make better food choices? If you were able to address your incontinence or weak bladder, wouldn't that make you more likely to be able to exercise and walk more? If you were able to replace some of the estrogen or testosterone that we lose as we go through menopause, and it made it easier to maintain your muscle mass, wouldn't all of those things combined probably have a positive impact on weight if that's an issue that is important to you? So just something to think about in that regard. So talking about the trajectory of our health, and Vonda Wright talked about this, how we've got agency over the trajectory of our health. I think one of the really interesting and impactful messages was this idea of lifespan versus health span. And there were some stats put up there. I'm not sure if they're American, or they're pretty similar across the Western world in terms of our lifespan as women is around about 83. So we know whether that's the average age or not, these are the stats that they use. So if our lifespan is 83, but on average our health span is 63, which means the last 20 years on average of women's lives, they're living in less than optimal health. So I know for myself and my clients made us think about, that's a long time. How do we want to be living that last 20 years of our life? Is it in poor health or is it in vibrant health and optimal health? And our actions now will determine that. The past doesn't determine the future. We can put a stop to that. We can change that trajectory anytime we like. So thinking about how do we want to live the last third or last half of our lives. One of the messages that I loved for obvious reasons, and I know Dr. Haver talks about this a lot, is strong, not skinny. So even if the body transformation and body composition is a really high priority for you, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think if we can optimize our body composition, there's all sorts of other parts of our health that are going to be positively impacted as a result. But the message overall needs to be, we need to work on strong over skinny. And like I said, this was a message from pretty much all the experts, I think, was along those lines. But I love the way Dr. Wright put it. She said, if you do nothing else, I want you to build muscle. I want you to become strong. Now, this is another thing that she mentioned, which, again, this is a message that I talk about a lot. And I think she even said, don't come at me with this next bit, but Pilates and yoga are great for mobility, but it's never going to be enough to keep you out of the nursing home. And 1 of 3 women will end up in a nursing home frail. I've talked about this before. Pilates and yoga, if you like doing them, and a lot of women do, fantastic. But we also need to be doing strength training. We need to be lifting some weights. So just make sure that it's not a replacement. It's not an either-or situation. If you want to do the Pilates and yoga in addition to strength training, great. But we need to be lifting heavy. We need to build muscle. Now, I have done a whole nother video only a couple of weeks ago on this concept of lifting heavy, because I do get a lot of questions about what that means exactly. How do I implement that into my life? So I did do a video on that. If that's something that you would like to watch, just comment lift heavy in the video and I'll just send you the replay, because I think that message can sometimes be a little bit intimidating if you've never picked up a dumbbell in your life. You're like, that's foreign to me, I don't want to hurt myself, I don't want to get bulky, it won't happen. There's all sorts of reasons why women potentially avoid it, but it's essential. The overwhelming evidence says we need to be lifting some weights. How heavy is heavy and what is appropriate for you is very dependent on the person. But as I said, I do have another whole video on that exact topic. Now, in the same realm, so in the strong, not skinny message, strong bones are so important. Strong muscles, very important. Strong muscles will impact strong bones, but there are a couple of things that we need to do in addition to lifting weights to make sure we've got strong bones. And strong bones can literally save your life. There's a difference between, if you're, let's say over 60, between falling over and having a fall. And I think we've all heard about the elderly women who have a fall and they break a hip or they break a wrist, but you fall over, you get back up and you're recovered. You might be a bit battered and bruised, but the big difference between having a fall and breaking a hip at 60 or 70 or 80 and falling over and getting back up again. And bone density is the difference between the two. Bone density scans are a really good tool for figuring out where you're at now, and then we can do something about it. Have one, if you haven't had one ever, they're called DEXA scans in Australia, bone density scan, just Google it, find out where you can get one done. And if you did that every couple of years, that would give you a good insight into, are you maintaining that strong bone health as you age? Good way to see where you're at. Now, as I said, strength training is really important for strong bones because we want to create some stress on the bones, and having your muscles get stronger does do that. But one of the other things that you can do to create strong bones is jump training. What does that mean? Jumping up and down, skipping, running, squat jumps, lunge jumps, anything that's jumping is jump training. Now, before you say, I can't do that, I've got bad knees, I've got a weak pelvic floor, going to impact some women definitely in the menopause phase. If pelvic floor is an issue, let's have a look at doing some pelvic floor exercises and getting some vaginal estrogen, just as a little side note. There are things that we can do along those lines. But if joints or tendons are an issue that are stopping you from doing that high impact exercise that are going to strengthen our bones, one of the other alternatives is, and this has become very big and popular, but I think rightly, is to wear a weighted vest. So if you're someone who can't do the jump, do the high impact training for those reasons, what you can do is wear a weighted vest. They're all the rage at the moment, but you could easily just get a backpack and fill it with some water bottles. Basically, putting extra stress on your bones is going to make them stronger. What did Dr. Wright say? Bones need to be bashed to be built. So we don't want to break them, but we do want to bash them around a bit. We want to put some stress on them in order to make them stronger. So there's a couple of options for you there. On a related topic, and also another one very close to my heart for obvious reasons, is nutrition. So when a few of the speakers spoke about nutrition, and no surprises here, the two big take-home messages when it comes to nutrition are getting enough protein and getting enough fiber. Those two things are going to stand you in very good stead for a lot of health issues or potential health issues as we age. So when it comes to protein, again, I've probably got half a dozen videos already on protein itself. If you want me to send you one or two, more than happy to. Just comment protein in the comments. When it comes to protein, an ideal amount is about 1 gram per ideal pound of body weight, or which is the equivalent of about 2 grams per kilo of ideal body weight. As I've mentioned before, if you're a 70 kilo woman, or if your ideal weight is about 70 kilos, we're looking at about 140 grams of protein a day. If you are way off that right now, if you're like nowhere near it, or you've got no idea what you're eating, comment protein and I'll send you, I've got a protein cheat sheet. I need to learn to say that better, but anyway, comment protein and I'll send it to you. But starting to focus on increasing your protein. Something's better than nothing. You're better off increasing where you're at now than going, there's no way I can ever get to 140 grams, so I may as well not try. So anything over 100 is a really great start, I always say, and everyone can get to 100. I've had vegan clients who can get over 100 grams of protein, so it's not that hard once you know how. Fiber, really important too. We talked about, or Dr. Wright talked about, taking your carbs in the form of fiber. And what she meant by that was eating complex carbs, so in other words, plant foods, legumes, etc., and they have carbohydrates in them, but we don't get the sugar spikes that we would from simple or processed carbs. We're not anti-carb, we just want you to have the right sort of carbs that are going to fuel you and nourish you and not cause sugar spikes and energy crashes and cravings, etc. So nutrition was no surprise, protein and plants are the key. And the fifth one was a little out of left field, or it's not directly related to the physical side of menopause, but I thought it was very important anyway, because I think for anyone to have long-lasting change, you need to have people around you who are on the same journey and supportive. So the importance of community and social connection was really rammed home too. I think just in terms of the talk itself was a really great example of how women coming together, you can feel so uplifted and empowered to take agency over your own body and your own health. And that was a great, beautiful thing to see. And just how important it is to come together as a group and talk about this topic. Talk about it with your friends, or your mum or your sister or your daughters, because the more we all have knowledge, the more power we have, and the less stigma there is around this topic, the better our outcomes overall. And I really believe that the next generation of women, they're going to have so many better outcomes and better options than even we do now. But it's certainly not too late for us. There's a massive, as you guys will have seen, massive groundswell of change wanted, and women coming together to demand that change. And just like I said at the start, take agency over your own health and you become the CEO of your own. One of our clients said this, that was her take home. You need to become the CEO of your own health. And I agree 100%. If this feels like a lot of stuff to take on board, as it can do sometimes when I throw a whole lot of different things that you can do to optimize your health, want to leave you with one of my favorite quotes from, obviously, the woman who was on that day, my favorite speaker, just because she was speaking about all of my favorite topics. So Dr Vonda Wright, who said, "You are worth the daily investment in your health, and there's nothing more important." So when you go tomorrow to focus on, okay, I'm going to do some strength training, or I'm going to eat a high protein breakfast, but I don't have time, I've got all these other things to do and people to look after, I want you to remember this: you're worth the daily investment in your health, and there is nothing more important. If you don't have your health, then none of the people you care about are going to have the best version of you either. So I will leave you with that, girls. If you have any questions, please let me know. It was a fantastic afternoon. It was 3 hours of chatting about all these things. So I was in my happy place, but it was really amazing. And hopefully those takeaways gave you guys a little something out of it too. But like I said, if you saw it yourself, if you were there and you had any key aha moments or pieces of advice or tips that really resonated with you, I'd love you to share them as well. All right. Thanks everyone. Lovely to see you guys. I will talk to you soon. Bye.